everyone. Welcome today's tea time. Welcome to today's tea time. We are the sermon crew, and we're here to, expand and go deeper on the topic of addiction and healing addiction. I was listening to the sermon today, or the entire service, really, and I really loved Christy's card reading. I thought that was super on point. Really loved how the cards just spoke perfectly, I feel, to the energy and releasing control and having compassion there. So I really enjoyed that, along with Fabian's meditation and of course Lisa's intro. So let's get into it. What do you guys want to talk about first? Or what do you want to share first about your experience today?
I really loved the sermon. I was watching it with Josh, and it was just so grounded and so real, and hit all of the key points, really going deeper into what Jeff and Shaleia have been teaching us. And one of the kind of main takeaways that I got this time was, what you said, Chrissy. It's that find the way that fits you the best, and then you move towards that. Find the way to heal. Once you recognize that you want to let go of your addiction, you can find the best path for you to heal it, because it has to feel good to you. You're not gonna heal something if that makes you feel worse.
Right.
Yeah. So that was really powerful.
Yeah, and I also feel like when you're moving through addiction, regardless of what it is, right? I think what we talked about is a lot of people think it's this one thing. I loved what you said, that one of the you read it somewhere, that one of the main addictions people have is relationships, addicted to a relationship, regardless if that relationship's healthy for you or not. I thought that was a very profound insight that you shared today on just what could be addiction, what could not be, you know what I mean? Really getting clear, it's not just drugs and alcohol. I mean, those are the common ones we know, but there's so many different ways to have a really deep rooted unhealthy pattern and realize that you're actually addicted to something. And getting clear on what that is and rooting it out and choosing new things and receiving help along the way is so vitally important to that. A lot of this comes up, like I said in the service today, on the health and wellness program for mind alignment process. And I think it's just a really relevant topic to kind of unpack and be willing to discuss. So thanks to everyone for being involved and wanting to do this topic, because we do these things as a team. And I just think it's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, Shaleia actually said that in the first sermon on addiction, that the biggest addiction is to people. And that really resonated with me, because, while substance abuse is the more apparent, or the thing that people think about the most, I did have addiction to people. I was trying to get approval from people, or attention, or comfort. And thanks to the teachings of union, which, maintained the principles with God, my addiction kind of had to come to a front here. And I had to really address these things. And it took a little while for me to really be honest with myself about, my game. But it's a loving place to do that. And I felt safe here. And I went deeper and peeled back the layers. And I did, recognize my own codependent patterns. And I did attend 12-step groups for myself. Codependence Anonymous, I was part of that. I was part of Al-Anon and Nar-Anon, which are the sister programs to AA and NA. These are for people who are in relationships with substance abuse, people who are using substances. And it was that we were identifying that we had the codependent pattern in that dance. But I value, I want to honor and respect those pathways. But for me, on a personal level, the Church of Union has helped me to heal more than those paths. This is for me, and those pathways may be for others, but I've had more healing here than anywhere else, and really can see those patterns dropping away.
Yeah, 100%, Lisa. I have too. I've experienced such profound shifts in my life so quickly that it really, like, doing the mind alignment process or being in the Church of Union community and just being around those healing and choosing to heal, there's such a profound shift so quickly that it really takes away that belief or that stigma associated with it has to be this long drawn out process, when it can really be gentle and easy and quick and like unfold rather quickly for anyone interested in doing it, and it'll unfold perfectly for everyone, right? But yeah, I 100% have experienced that as well. Yeah.
I had some addictions as well before stepping into the teachings of Union. And I was just thinking yesterday that, oh, well, actually, all of these addictions are gone, you know? And I just noticed that, yeah, fittingly before the tea time here, that the inner work, the purification work, and just this community is deeply healing. And it does a lot for you without you kind of like noticing necessarily. It just because you improve every day, that over a long period, you really improve in a lot of areas, you know? And yeah, I'm really happy and grateful for that. And I didn't thought that was possible beforehand, you know?
Yeah, I can just relate to that, especially like I was smoking like before I came to the teaching, and I didn't want to really to stop, but it just happened naturally by purifying my consciousness by watching TFAS, and suddenly I was then vaporizing, right, like going there, and then it automatically like stopped that I was smoking, and so I had more money to invest into all class bars and life purpose class, right? It was a natural process. And so it's so cool that your health is automatically, because Chrissy also shared like from A Course in Miracles, right, that every problem is rooted in the mind. And so, of course, when you purify your consciousness, your health is improving and you are healing. And what I also love is still like getting clear and more aware of the root, right, where addictions come from. And like you all shared, it's not only about drugs or kind of unhealthy patterns. And that often I feel, especially being a MAP practitioner, that the root is in relationships, because the most trauma happens in relationships. And especially like when you were a child and you were not able like to come out of the situation, or it seemed like you were powerless, right? And there can be a lot of coping mechanisms, as what I'm also kind of like studying and going deeper with, that you learned how to deal with toxic relationships, which also becomes patterns, unhealthy patterns, and kind of addiction. It can be, for example, that humor, right? You be the clown, for example. You try to de-escalate situations, and it becomes a pattern, so to speak. Or also kind of like dissociating from yourself, which leads then to numbing out, alcohol, and all the other addictions, right? That you deviate from your body or from your emotions to don't feel the pain. There can be a lot of, for example, rationalizing, right? To just use logic to try also to justify what you experienced, like in toxic relationships, right? There can be a lot of unhealthy patterns that you develop since childhood, maybe sometimes, and getting clear of the root is like what MAP especially is doing, of course, also the mirror exercise, to heal the core, and automatically the abuse and the drug and the substance will stop. And I'm so grateful to experience that, like with patients or with clients, like especially in MAP, to let go of medications, right? That it really is helping, that they step by step can let go of them. And so it's very healing with the teachings of Union. It's like a miracle, right? We experience it every day with so many of us in the community, and I'm very grateful to be part of it and to just share the teaching. Yeah, it's coming up for me.
Yeah, it's really cool to like have the opportunity to heal it at the core and just talk about it. I think there's so much taboo around it. Like, oh, if you're doing this, you're like, you're making bad choices, so that equates to you being a bad person. And it really doesn't. It doesn't. It just means that they're moving through something, it doesn't make them a bad person because they have like an unhealthy behavior, right? I think it's really time to let that go and just realize that they're seeking something that they just haven't found yet, or they haven't really implemented a healthy way, or they just haven't hit whatever their rock bottom is. And no one can equate to what that is for any person, right? And so like that's something that, like, when we did the case study review on Dak Shepard and his story, because he was like a like really, like, he was into hard drugs in like multiple different ways, and just not handling the situation, like he should have essentially died and didn't. And like everything said, he'd taken so much like toxic material and put it in his body that he should have stopped living. And he knew, like, you know, that didn't even stop him. Like, that wasn't his, like, he continued the drug use for another year before he actually woke up and said, wait a second. And it's exactly what Lisi said. It was because he found purpose. He found a reason to really give his energy to. And I think that's something that I had found as well. When like I went through MAP for the first time, my purpose was MAP. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I found so much purpose in supporting people and healing trauma, and like ending that suffering in their minds, and like really wanting to bring that to soldiers. And I still do. And like, you know, having that opportunity to give a gift and share a gift that is so profound and healing and so quick, it really did light me up inside, and like all of my energy was directed into that area. So I think, like, when you're really, if you're stuck or you're hurting or you're moving through something, you know, really identifying, well, what would I do? What could I do? What are healthy behaviors I could invest in? What do I want to do with my life? What does that look like? Right. And get abundantly clear on what you enjoy. And if you don't know what it is, try new things out and find out, because once you find your thing, like, you'll take off running in that direction. That's what my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good point about purpose. Because I feel, you know, for me, the feeling is we've just kind of cracked open an egg that is starting to unfold with regards to purpose and healing addictions. Because what I noticed, you know, you talk about your journey with alcohol, and it's not like you tried to stop drinking, it just happened. And so you look back on that and you're like, what was the process there? And it was that you had a purpose, and you were feeling fulfilled by this purpose with God. And that's what the Church of Union brings. And I really love that. And I experienced that too. Like, early on my twin flame journey, I'll just share about me. I was really codependent, and I would text my twin flame like 40 times in a row and get really nervous and anxious when he didn't respond, and then show up at his house. And at the time, my mind was like, this is the right thing to do. And of course, it had those repercussions where I would get blocked and, you know, boundaried, which was helpful for me because I needed that. But here, when I started to learn, like, my purpose was learning about the teachings of Union through the Twin Flame Ascension School, and then becoming a coach, and then, you know, serving as a volunteer in the church. I was busy, you know, I was like, I feel great. And my mind wasn't bored. And I've heard that from a lot of people who have addictions, especially to substances, that they're just kind of bored. Part of it, you know, maybe it's comfort, or maybe they're trying to like get high and connect with God, or maybe they're just bored and they want to have fun. I've heard people say that. I just want to have some fun. And service and purpose, as well as play, like, all of that is here, you know, and it's healthy, and it feels really good. So I really appreciate, you know, your path. And I know a lot of people try to stop drinking or using substances, or stop whatever they're addicted to, and they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in rehab programs and things like that. And what I see not working is when people just like focus into the addiction and try to stop doing the thing rather than going to the root, like Christy was talking about. So yeah, it's super, super important stuff.
My experience is that the addictive pattern or action, you know, it gives you like the promise of giving you something nice. And ultimately it is only superficial, only very shallow, I found. It is an empty promise, right? And you cannot replace God or love with an addiction. And yeah, really, like my core insight there was that it's empty, like it's just promising me to fulfill me or something, but there's nothing there. It's completely empty. Yeah. So yeah, it's because there's no God behind it, right? There's no meaning really behind it.
Yeah, that reminds me of like social media scrolling, which is like an up and coming addiction with a lot of like millennials or even just anyone who's getting those dopamine hits from social media. That's what it does. Like, so back in the day, it used to be like the like da da da, you got mail, and like everyone loved to hear that like chime and like it hit, oh, I got mail, right? And then it turned into personal messaging, and like you get the ding when you get a personal message, and you're like, oh, I got a ding, like what's going on, right? And then like it turned into more of a fast-paced situation on social media where you're scrolling through videos and reels, and like like it's a constant search, and you're actually looking for a dopamine hit is what it is. And it's like something in the frontal lobe, it's a drug. And like, so if you don't have enough dopamine running through your system, then like you'll go to these social media and you'll get like, you'll lose hours of your life sitting there trying to get that hit. And the more you do it, the longer it takes to get that dopamine released into your system. And so that's a form, and I'm nowhere near a doctor. I've just done my own like kind of reading about it and listened to lectures and TED Talks on it, right? But like you want to figure out what you're getting from that, why you're doing it, and see if there's any way you can shift your focus, right? Like, so I've done this with different things where I'm like, okay, I want to shift my focus here. I don't want to do this anymore. What do I want to do? Well, I want to put in a healthy habit. And so like, what's a healthy habit you can do instead of like 20 minutes of social media looking because you're trying to rest or you're trying to give to yourself, right? You want to do something else. Maybe it's 10 minutes of breathing exercises first, or 10-minute meditation first before you move into instantly going to the phone for that scrolling, right? If that's something that's going on. So it's really about identifying the relationship you're having, or the relationship, like exactly what Lisi had unpacked is like in her intro, was figuring out what you're getting from it that you like, what you're getting from it that you don't like, and identify a healthy habit you can have that moves into that. And that's something like, of course, that was rooted into Jeff and Shaleia's sermon on addiction. But like you want to figure that out and apply it to your life, like figure out and try it out. And if you don't want to try it out, then identify, go deeper, figure out why you don't want to try it out, and continue to reflect until you come into a space where you're like, oh, this is why I'm doing it, right? And a lot of times there's a secondary or tertiary reason that these things are in place. Like my self-medicating with alcohol was a secondary effect of trauma, right? So when I healed the trauma, the secondary and tertiary effects of that melted away pretty significantly because I healed the relationship within my mind, right? That's essentially the concept there. So like, yeah, I completely agree with that piece.
Yeah, there's an expression called dry drunk. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. It's when someone doesn't use the substance anymore, like doesn't drink anymore, but still has the patterns. So like if you remove the substance, the pattern's still there until you heal the root. And, I grew up with a father whose father, like my grandfather was an alcoholic, wet drunk. My dad was a dry drunk. He didn't drink alcohol, but he still had all those patterns, and that got transferred down to me. So yeah, just like what you said, like it's not about the substance, but the relationship you have with it. And the relationship really is the relationship you have with yourself and what's going on inside.
That's great. That reminded me of a story. So like there was this like soldier that I served with. He was like one of the oldest soldiers in our like Corps in the Army. He was great. And like I had served with him a couple different times because we had a really small group, small Corps. And we were talking one day and he stopped smoking. And I was like super surprised because he smoked all of the time. A lot of soldiers smoke. And like, so I was like, wow, like you don't smoke anymore. And I just was like really proud of him for not smoking. And he was like, yeah, but I still take my smoke breaks. I'm like, okay, explain. And so he said, well, I realized that the reason I was smoking was because I wanted the break. And so like I stopped smoking, and then I was working all the time and I'm like, this sucks. So I started smoking again so I could get the smoke break. And so he's like, so I just wanted the break from work. And so I still go out to the smoking circle. I still go out and socialize. I still go out and talk to the soldiers out there, but I just don't smoke anymore. I found that really interesting. And like, as I go deeper into what you're explaining to me, he wanted like a break from work. Like he wasn't actually enjoying his work. He never addressed the core problem. So the pattern was still there, but like, at least he switched it out to be more healthy. You know what I mean? He like kind of like stopped doing the unhealthy thing, but still gave himself what he actually wanted from it. So like he got really clear, like, I don't want to smoke anymore because I don't like these things, but I like these things. So I'm going to keep doing that. Right. And so like he kind of kept that habit in place. And I thought it was really profound and a good idea, because then it taught everyone else they could do the same. Like I had no problems with him as his leadership taking breaks or going out and socializing. He was very extrovert. He needed that kind of like energy exchange. But like it was like, oh wait, like that's kind of a profound thing to share with everyone out there, that like they can take smoke breaks and not actually have to smoke. Right. And so he was like in introducing everyone to healing in that space, which I thought was cool. Yeah.
I actually had a thought. Was it who, I don't remember if it's Christy or Chrissy that was saying, it was Chrissy. Yeah, you were saying about the dopamine hit. And I was thinking about that and how like high-speed internet and smartphones are kind of changing and kind of restructuring our brains. Like the way that hard substances get a bad rap for like being really harsh, but then how much are our brains being influenced by how long we spend on computers and phones and watching cat videos, he said, which I think I might be guilty of. Anyway, but I think I did have to actually consider the biological part of addiction, where your chemistry is changing in your brain. And while like a lot of the going to the root and healing that is important, I think it's also important to make sure you understand that maybe your physiology has changed a little bit. For me, I had an addiction, if I want to call it that, to food, sugary foods, flours and things. And I'm working with Chrissy a lot on that in the health and wellness program. And like it changed my body, like my body, like if I didn't have that hit of sugar, I would feel bad. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a drug. This is what drug addicts talk about. And I really did have to be very compassionate with myself. I think you mentioned that in the sermon. Compassion is really important, because as I kind of detoxed from that, it didn't feel good. Like I went through a period of, oh, this feels great, and whoosh, crash, and then feeling a little bit better, and then a little dip towards after 3 months. And I just, wanted to just like emphasize the need for compassion. And then with regard to, the dopamine hits that the high-speed internet kind of give us, to consider in the healing process that maybe a lot of support is required, rather than just thinking that you can handle it on your own. So support's really important. And I'm so glad for the Mind Alignment Process program and the health and wellness program for that. And perhaps even with chemicals, like a substance like detox program, depending on what the level of addiction is there.
No, I love that you brought up sugar, like and food. This is so important to really reflect and sit with your relationship with food and sugar. And sugar is a drug. It is like like caffeine's a drug. There's so many things that we put in our bodies that we might not even be aware that are addictive, and then don't realize why we ate all of the thing, right? And so like sugar is an easy one to kind of wrap our heads around. And like you take sugar and then you actually, your body craves it more, and the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you need in order to like satisfy that craving. That's the goal of sugar. And so like when you're looking at this, you want to get abundantly clear and just like have compassion for yourself and be like, okay, is this healthy? Is this not healthy? Like, I think that you mentioned this, like, I think it was Christy or Lisi, but like, do I really want that? Why do I want that? Like, am I going to feel good about that? And I know you've been moving through your healing journey, and it feels really good to get clear. Like, you know, there's chips that like if you eat, they have an addictive substance to them. So like that's why there's like the theory you can't just eat one. And like you want to get abundantly clear, do I really want more chips, or do I feel like that addictiveness under it that's like inviting me into eating more of it, right? And so like when you realize that and you come to awareness, you can still enjoy everything you love in moderation. It's just like being abundantly clear and putting a barrier up there so you don't overindulge. There's something that Jeff and Shaleia had said once that really was profound, and it was like, overindulgence is not joy, right? It's not going to bring you joy. Like, and so you want to have like things when you're talking food, for example, you want to do it in moderation. Social media, you want to do it. I think Stephanie commented on the comments below, like, you know, you want to do social media in moderation and really catch yourself if you're kind of tipping the spear and going too much into it, right? Like everything should be done in some kind of moderation in those areas.
Yeah, I really love that with the balance, right? And that's why divine dish is so balanced, right? You have chips in it, you have sugar in it, and when you are satisfied, because you also don't go hungry to the grocery store, right? It's not a good idea, because then you're divine dish. Then you buy more.
Plug with my teacup today. I got the divine dish teacup out. Go ahead, Christy.
Love it. Yeah, it's like really this balance, moderation, like you said. And I remember also Jeff said, I think it was in sit down, or like also sometimes in the group coaching with the pleasant, right? There's a difference between pleasant and perfect, and it comes with a cost, right? Like when it becomes like the dependency, or you're overindulging, or how you say, like something, and to think long term, right? And like also Lisi said yeah, it's the same when you stop smoking. You don't focus on, I want to stop smoking, I have to stop smoking. You focus on the right thing and what your goal and the healthy habits, right? And to do more sport, for example, right? Or like to eat more fruits and to make smoothies or have fun with it, right? And to focus on the nice habits. So balance is a big point, and the teachings of union bring God and therefore balance to every area of your life. And this is what I really love, because it teaches you to let go of any stress in your life, like this pressure. It's all perfectionism, or how we got educated, right, from society, like this fear-based thinking. You have to be a robot, kind of. But the more you allow yourself to receive God the whole time, the more balance you feel, and you gain all the energy. You're not leaving it anymore. And that's also like, of course, component of the teachings of union.
You can replace that habit as well with a mirror exercise, right? You can ask yourself, what am I getting from it? Or it's this kind of feeling. And then you can share this feeling with yourself, like in the fourth step of the mirror exercise, right? To understand that you are the one that creates this kind of feeling within yourself. But yeah, with the food and stuff, you know, it's really important to combine elements. Like when you eat only sugar, you have like an insulin spike, right? Yeah, so you need to have like some protein with it. And I make sure that when I have this craving for sweets, like maybe once a day I have my cookie, you know, but other than that, maybe more like in combination with other proteins and stuff to keep that balance. Yeah.
One thing I remember, like kind of spinning off of what Fabian said is, when Jeff and Shaleia teach about healing, like they talk about your relationship with food or your body, or substances. One thing I've heard them repeat a lot is that it has to be natural and sustainable. Like I remember in life purpose class, Jeff was talking about exercise, and he and Shaleia got this treadmill, and it just sat in their basement for a little while. And then the way that they began the relationship with it wasn't to run a marathon on it right away. They just, I think Jeff said he got on it and stood on it for like a week, and then, or 2 weeks, and then got on it and walked for 5 minutes for another 2 weeks, and then got on it and increased the speed. And that's so true, because you know, I have tried to stop. Once I became aware that I had an addiction to the substances or whatnot, and I tried to like stop cold turkey, I just binged like later on, and that didn't work. And what does work is the natural, sustainable approach. You know, I did like go to the gym, and I was like, I'm gonna get in shape. I'm gonna do all my activities right away. And of course that fell off. Like I went for a month, and then that stopped. I've seen people who have addictions to substances, like maybe they've healed the root a little bit, but then they try to stop the substance altogether, then go back to it, and they feel ashamed. And then they don't want to keep trying again because they don't trust themselves. So I really appreciate that Jeff and Shaleia highlight the natural, sustainable approach, because that's going to create permanent, lasting results. And I really, you know, it's profound how I've been able to change through following that way.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I love that. Like the stemming there is trying to control your way out of it instead of healing your way out of it, right? Like a lot of people can stop cold turkey and it doesn't like phase them, right? Like Jay talked about that in the sermon, like where he actually could stop smoking because like when he realized what the relationship was, he just changed and it went away instantly. And it was like that for me too with alcohol. But like if you're really struggling or you're moving through it, and everyone's unique and they're going to move through it in the same in their own way, right? And so like you want to have such compassion for yourself and realize that like guilt and shame, the job of guilt is to keep you separate from God, right? That's its job. And so like when you realize that that's the job of guilt, that's what it does, you can release it completely and choose to just be one with God and heal whatever is arising you with compassion in your heart. And it's so incredibly important to have compassion for yourself and others as they move through it. Now, compassion for others doesn't mean that you don't put boundaries up with somebody if they're being unhealthy or that they're inviting you into a toxic relationship. That's not compassionate for you. So if you're in the caregiver side of things, or you're in the loved one side of things, like you want to make sure that you're maintaining boundaries with somebody who's moving through something very unhealthy. So like it doesn't affect your peace, and it doesn't affect your expansion, and it doesn't affect what's going on in your life. Because like Lisi talked about earlier in our tea time today, like that is your component of it, is boundaries. A lot of boundaries are needed there in order to have compassion and love for yourself as you move through whatever it is that you're moving through with a situation in your home or in your life.
For me, it was a lot with video games that I've dealt with, like video game addiction. You know, it gave me this kind of coping, not really, right? And comfort for some time in my youth. but obviously, video games they don't provide, not yet. Divine Gaming is changing that. They don't usually provide like healing, so they only like make you not feel the bad feeling that you're feeling while you're playing it. Right, that was it for me. And
well, eventually too, don't they like start feeling bad when you can't get like to a thing? Like the goal of the game is to keep you in it and not let you like get the thing, and then that starts to feel bad. Like they can potentially get abusive over time. Some of them, I think.
Oh yeah,
Like,
that is true.
yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, it's true. Like some motivation there where you are like getting frustrated, right? And then you overcompensate for that, and yeah, it can really do that too. And a lot of video games really kind of even exploit like the dopamine hits, because it's like all of these sounds and like numbers floating on the screen, and so you want to be aware of that and keep engaged with your feelings. Take breaks, I would say, if you play video games that are like that, and just notice how you're feeling, and when you are playing them as well. Like, is there something more important in your life going on that you should be doing at that time, right? Then you can really enjoy that when you play at that time. Yeah, but for me, it was like, I noticed basically, I played this World of Warcraft game way too much, and I just, but one day I just stopped. I invested like years and years into the game, and then I went cold turkey there, right? And I just quit playing it, and it kind of worked, But I did not have the teaching of Union then, so I moved into some other kind of like replacement addictions, that were similar, and then finally through the inner work, I'm healing them. And now it's more like an attunement, because I would say the heavier addictions are gone for me. Now it's more like the subtleties, right? Oh
yeah,
man,
like the refinement, right? Continuing to refine your vibration there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And one thing that came up for me was like this scrolling through a TikTok or something like that, like short forms, right? Very short form content that also spikes some I don't know, some dopamine or something in you.
Yeah, it's dopamine usually. Yeah, like it's like what Lisi said, our minds are being mapped in that space, and like you want to see if it's a healthy programming, right? Because there's like, even people take their phones to bed with them and use them as their alarm clocks, but then they'll sit on them all night. And so like just buy an alarm clock, right? That was like something in a Simon Sinek talk I heard, is like, you're addicted to your phone, you're bringing it to bed with you, you're taking it into the bathroom with you, you're sitting at the dinner table with it, like you're not actually relating to anyone because you're constantly on your phone. And you can see that when people go out, when they're at the restaurant, you can look at couples and they're just like sitting on their phones. They're not talking to the person in front of them. And like that's an addiction of like you're connecting to a device and not to the people around you, right? And so like I find it interesting because as we've talked today, and like as you brought up divine gaming, Fabian, I realized like the Church of Union in the organizational framework addresses all of these things and provides us into a healthy environment and relationship, whether it be in relationships through Twin Flames Universe, or it's through mind and healing trauma and addiction in the health and wellness program at mindalignmentprocess.org, or it's like health and body with Divine Dish, or it's with gaming with Divine Gaming. Like we have so many tools before us to support us in cultivating a healthy relationship in our life with whatever we want to prioritize or however we want to do it. That's such a beautiful thing to come into realization of, is that the teachings of Union, the Church of Union, and the organizations aside, the divine organizations, like they really do provide you the perfect outlet for your thing to heal. Like if you really want to focus on your body, if you want to focus on relationship, if you want to focus on gaming, if you want to focus on, joy in your life or your relationship with food, like it's here for you. It's laid out for you. The gift has been given. The components are there. And that's pretty awesome. All right.
Amen to that. You shared at the last part of your sermon that the purpose of life is to find happiness, like true happiness. And I find that here in the church, and it's like my twin flame was saying, like, this is the kind of church I want to be at. Like when he was watching the service today, it's like everyone can find their place and joy. And just one thing that I'm doing now, because I had kind of the opposite issue of Fabian, where I did not grow up with games. I wasn't allowed to play. I started video gaming when I was 38 years old here, and I had, gaming coaching. And so I giving myself permission to play. And one thing we're doing now is we have a Dungeons and Dragons campaign going, and that is so cool. I really love it. We're playing with a few members of the church, and you get to role play, and you actually have to interact with people. And we're using a computer screen as like our playing board. We don't have to be in person, but it's as if we're in person, and it's so fun. And you get to be creative and think about new ways and new ideas. And Josh and I just went to a gaming store, like the kind of gaming store where there's comics and D&D merchandise and things like that, and just got really into it. And that's, for us, that's become like a healthy alternatives to some of the unhealthy things that we were doing. That and cooking. The cooking has been beautiful, and like I love Divine Dish and the courses, and just so happy and blessed to be here. And want to thank Jeff and Shaleia a lot for everything that they have manifested and continue to develop.
Yeah, I was really happy to see you, like Licia, when you shared that Divine Gaming helped you in your union, right? And to also for Josh to have healthy relationships, and we all do and learn what divine relationships really are here in the community, that we can grow and heal together. And yeah, it's so beautiful to see, and I feel that for myself. And yeah, we're just at the beginning, kind of like coming closer together, right? Also like in person more and more, and to really build these relationships and to go always deeper there, and yeah, to learn what love really is, right? Unconditional love.
Love that. Well, that feels really good, guys. Does anyone have any closing comments or anything on their mind, or do we feel good here? Good. Lisa, you feel good here? Oh, good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed us, going deeper, and remember always to join us next week for the next juicy sermon and tea time. And we will see you next time.